Hi, everyone. This is Marilyn Bradford, and I would like to welcome you to my Left Turn podcast. What is your left turn? Writing a blog, parenting in a different way, letting go of the old because you are aware of something greater. Left turns are choices we can all make. It's about a willingness to step into the unknown in any area of your life, to trust yourself, to risk creating or trying something new. It's about letting your true uniqueness shine. The greatest people who have lived, artists, statesmen, writers, explorers, musicians, have all been people willing to turn left. What capacities do you have that you have not acknowledged? What would your life and the world be like if you were willing to turn left? Welcome, everyone, to this edition of the Left Turn podcast. And I have an amazing man with me today, whom I first met in Malulaba, I'm not even sure, 16, 17 years ago. He's an Access Consciousness certified facilitator. He's an author of over 10 books. And I have to say, even though he would never put this in his bio, that he is one of the kindest, most gracious, generosity of spirit people I've ever met. And I always think of him that way. And I hope someday to get back to Australia and have another lunch with him.
Absolutely.
He's also an IT genius. It is rumored that other IT companies or companies looking for IT people have tried to get him away from Access Consciousness, and they haven't succeeded. So how does it get better than that? So welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Marilyn. And look, congratulations on a great podcast. I've really enjoyed Left Turn, and I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, you are so welcome, and we're so grateful to have you. So we'll just start with the obvious question. What have been some of the most important left turns in your life? What did they create? Any way you want to run with that.
You know, it's a big question because I'm a little bit older now, so I've had a bit of a life, a lot of a life actually. And I kind of look at this way that the left turns are there's little left turns and there's big left turns, right? They're choices, and
Yes.
and some of the choices that I've made have created some not so great things, and a lot of the choices have created some very great things. But I think that the thing that has been predominant in my life has been change, in the sense that I get bored easily. I go in and do something, I learn everything I can about it, I play with it, have a lot of fun, create some great things with it, and then on I go. And um, for example, I probably in most of the jobs or careers or businesses I've had, I'm good for about 2 years, maybe 3 years, and then it's time for a new job, it's time for a new business, it's time for something. And one of the really great things about working with Access Consciousness, which I've been doing for about 20 years now, has been the freedom that Gary, Douglas, and Dane here have allowed me in the work that I have done with them and with Access. And so rather than having to leave to get something different, it's always been different. And I think when you go and work for someone or a business, there is always this overlay of this is how we do it, and you need to learn
Yes.
how to do that, right? And so you can fit in and you can comply, and then we can control you, or we can make sure that you're doing what your job is defined as. And what I have had with Access Consciousness is this constant sense of freedom and choice to create what I know is required, to make my own mistakes, right, and learn from them, to actually to do that. And so for me that's been wonderfully freeing, and I have been able to create some really great things with this business, this organization, this organism of Access Consciousness.
Anything specific pop up for you?
Well, one of the things that's stands out for me, and um, when you work in IT, depending on where you work and how you work,
Right.
often you're in the back of things. It's sort of
Yes.
like the IT is the platform or the systems that support other things. And often IT is a reflection of or a demand, or what IT can be is a reflection or a demand of the business or the people that it's serving.
Right. Right.
Okay, so it's a response, and the business changes, so something has to change in the IT to support that new business thing. And what a lot of people struggle with, and I did for a while, is that nobody knows who you are,
Ah, yes.
right? Nobody knows what you do. Very few people know what you do.
Yes.
And even though some people will be very grateful for you, and it's often a case of people come to you with a problem and say, look, this isn't working, or I've got this thing going on, and then you fix their problem and they're grateful that you fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
They have no idea what went into that, how you did that,
Right.
or
Right.
they're not necessarily grateful for you, they're grateful that you fixed the problem.
Right.
Okay, so I explain that just to lay some groundwork there, because you really have to get to acknowledging yourself for what
Yeah.
you do and what you create, because nobody knows what it is that I do or how I create things. They see the results of that, and
Yes.
sometimes that's upsetting and sometimes that's wonderful. And so I've had to get to this space where I where I have to acknowledge me, right? I have to be happy and joyful and grateful for me. And that has allowed me to work in this area, because if I was continuously looking for somebody to acknowledge me about
Right.
how great I was, it would drive me crazy, because
Yes,
how
it
can
was.
they? How
Yeah.
can they? And I remember as I got clearer and clearer on this, I remember many years ago, I used to always go to my dad with some new idea or some business or some crazy thing, and he would always knock me down. He would always talk me down. There would always be some undercutting with him, and I never seemed to be able to get from him this acknowledgement. And I realized after a while that he's looking at me perhaps and thinking, why are you coming to me for this acknowledgement, right? You're
Mm.
already greater than I am. I don't
Wow.
feel so great about myself.
Yeah.
So how can I acknowledge you? And so I was putting him under some pressure, and also putting myself in a difficult situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't do that now. And my
Mm-hmm.
dad and I have a really wonderful relationship, and
Nice.
it's changed. And it's also the same. And the way this works is, as you become more aware, as you become aware of yourself as a being,
Mm-hmm.
rather than a body, and that you have capacities beyond bodies and beyond lots of things, is there's some magic that you bring
Yes.
to the work,
Yes.
to the job, the contribution. And I'll give you an example. Like last night, we've just moved the Access Consciousness website to a new environment, to a new hosting. And with that has come some difficulties, some things that
Sure.
didn't work and stopped working. And I've been working with a software engineer who is based in Romania to get these things handled. And there was a couple of things that weren't getting handled. And this was creating some frustration and difficulty for the people that work with us. So I rang up this guy in Romania, and I said, "How are you going with all of this? What's going on?" And I talked with him, not to offer solutions, but just to talk with him, to let him
Yeah.
know that I was there and he was there, and we together could get this done. And he talked a lot about what he was doing, what he wasn't able to do, and the problems, and that was fine. I let him
Mhm.
talk. Now this morning I woke up to get a message from him saying, this thing is working, that thing is working. I was able to get that done, right? Now, I could say that was good luck,
Mm-hmm.
right? That kind of thing. But what I know is, and this has happened so many times, that when I'm willing to be with someone or be with something where there is an apparent problem, suddenly it gets handled, or suddenly it gets working.
Yes.
And that's me, right?
That's the magic you be.
Yeah. And
That's
that's
so
something that nobody else can acknowledge. That's something
right.
that most companies won't pay for,
No.
right?
Oh, they're in linearity and you're not.
Yeah.
Or
And
rather,
so
you can function in all of those universes.
that's right. And as I've acknowledged more of that, then more of that has become available. And as I know that's one of the things that I contribute, then I'm not looking to prove that I'm worth something by working 24 hours a day or,
Right.
you know, whatever it is. And I think that acknowledgement and that acknowledgement of me has been a major left turn in the way that I work and then I play and then I be in the world.
That is just wonderful.
Mhm.
So you did say no one really knows what I do. Um, that they're acknowledging you for having solved a problem. So I don't know if I mean we you sort of addressed this just then with the magic, but if I ask you what is it that you do, or maybe it's what is it that you be, Stephen, what would you say?
That it's that I know that there's no problem
Ah,
with this. I come in knowing that, right? It's just a setting. It's
yeah.
just a word. It's just a
Yeah.
button
Mm-hmm.
somewhere that we haven't, or the person that's working on it, or myself just hasn't
Yes.
pressed or checked or whatever it is. It's a
Yes.
checkbox somewhere.
Yes.
There is, and or or that it's something that we can't handle right now,
Okay.
so we can stop trying to handle it and look for
It
something
sounds like
else.
you operate from question. I'm interrupting here, but
Mm, mm. It is that it is it's hard to put into words, right? Because as soon as we start wording it, we start
yes,
defining it.
we start defining it. I
Words
do.
always do that,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we try and use this limited thing called language to
Yes.
explain magic and energy. But yes, question, absolutely question. It's a case of I do go to conclusion. I do go to decision. I do go to these things, but I always find my way back to question,
Yes.
right? And it's the question, like Gary Douglas has said many times, just ask, will this work? Right? It's
Yeah.
such a simple thing. And it's not even that you get an answer straight away
Mhm.
or that you even get an answer, but you
Yes.
get some sort of clarity on,
You get energy on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if something won't work or now is not the time for it to be handled or be
Yes.
solved or whatever that is, then you can stop putting energy into that and open up to something different.
Most people would say that IT is linear. What would you say to that?
It's as linear as you want to make it. It's
I like that.
it is technical. It is like when somebody is coding something up,
Yes.
what they're attempting to do is to cover all of the circumstances that this
Mhm.
thing might have to handle.
Mhm.
So in other words, they're looking perhaps a little bit out into the future, looking at all of the, like for example, when you click a button on your computer,
Mhm.
there's four or five or six actions you could take, right? You could click
Right.
the button. You could click and hold and click and hold. You could click and
Mhm.
hold and drag. You could right
Mhm.
click. You could double click, right? There's all of these different actions that the user can take. So the person that's coding up the action of that button is trying to handle all of those circumstances or those
Mhm.
exceptions from the normal
Mhm.
activity of clicking the button. And so there is a lot of for people that are coding, it seems very technical, but there's a lot of artistry in how they
Mhm.
do that.
Mhm.
So IT is as creative as anything else,
That's so interesting. Wow.
and but there's also this other aspect to it, Marilyn, which is that you can ask the IT to work with you, to be with you. You can contribute it to it in ways that it wasn't designed to. do.
Wow. Would you say more about that, please? I'm
Yeah,
like
so
with IT. I'm like, I plug it in. Help. My team knows.
right, yeah, right. And that's a choice, right? And that's great. I mean,
And it is a choice. But I
you
love what you just said about the magic of it, that you could
yeah,
see
so
that.
so every system that I've worked with, particularly with access consciousness, so just looking at that business, that energy, that entity of access consciousness, it's always changing. It's very different. People work very differently. And what I ask the systems that I've been bringing online and working with for Access over the years is to be more than you were designed to be.
Wow. That's amazing.
And and what we get from that is, I'll give you an example. Um, Access Consciousness CRM, customer relationship management programs, where we store all the data and lots of things about customers and classes and events. I used to get phone calls from the people that worked with me in NetSuite, like the people that
Mhm.
designed it and worked with it, to say, what are you doing now with our software? And I had one particular account manager who I got very well friendly with, and he would say to me, I have people coming in my office asking me, what are they doing with it now? Because we took it to places and spaces and capacities that other people were not.
Uh-huh.
And so to them that was really unusual because they designed it to work this way and function this
Right.
way, and when they came and had a look at what we're doing, it was so very different. And so it's asking the the application, this whatever it is that you're using, is
Mhm.
what could you be beyond your design, beyond what you were programmed to do.
That's such an amazing question for
Yeah,
everything.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Because the assumption of the designers is it will work this way because we have covered all the exceptions, all of these
Right.
different ways of using a button. But maybe you use a button very differently, and it still works.
Wow.
And I think this is something that I bring, that other people that work with the different systems we have bring, and this idea of system as opposed to structure is really important here. That a system is a very flexible, mutable, changeable thing, whereas a
Yes.
structure is a very
Mhm.
fixed item. And
Right.
and and perhaps people that are coding and creating these wonderful applications that we have are trying to handle everything that could happen to this software, that could be laid upon this software, and in that concluding that that's it, that's the only way it
That's
can
it.
work, right?
Right.
That's it.
Right.
We've done it this way. This is how you use it. Here's all the instruction manuals. But there's some very clever people. It's not me. There's some very clever people who work around things, who get things to work differently, who try different things out, way beyond what the original designers intended or even thought was possible.
Mhm.
And I think that's the fun of working with IT, is taking all of the great functionality that's been created for us to use and also
Yes.
stretching it
Yes. And
in
what
every
else is
way.
possible?
And what else is possible? Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you find that the same, I'm not even quite sure how to articulate this, but the same capacities with magic show up in other areas of your life?
Yes. Do you know, I haven't really labeled it or thought of it as magic. I do.
Okay. All right.
No,
Forget
it's
that
fine.
word,
But
whatever
it
it is.
is,
Yeah.
it's a fair question. It's a fair question. I'm kind of a bit pragmatic, even
Mhm.
leaning well towards practical sometimes.
Yes.
And I think part of it is I like to learn everything that I can possibly learn about something.
Yes.
All right, so I'm a great self learner. I'm a brilliant self learner, and I go in there and something new shows up, and I want to know everything about it that I can possibly know. So I often have great knowledge about something, and and magic has this connotation in this reality of illusion.
I guess when I use the word magic, and I realize I come from such access stuff, that it is when you create beyond this reality, we go, oh yeah, of course. And this reality goes, it's magic.
Yes. Yes. And look, I mean that is true, isn't it? And in that you can get labeled as that's not
Yes.
possible. It must be
Right.
something else. Therefore you're
Right.
a charlatan,
Yes.
right? Or a witch or something ridiculous. And it's just that you're doing something that nobody else knows how to do because
Yes.
that's how you create it. That's how you
Yeah.
work in the world. And I think also that's how you work out of the world,
Yes. Absolutely.
right? And and so this is one of the things that is this, you know, we talk about this reality or this
Yeah.
world, right?
Mhm.
And when you're willing to realize that there's more to everything than this reality, there's many
Yes.
realities, but there's also um, greater and broader than that, that you can look into that and begin exploring that and working with that.
Yes.
And it's like this
Yes.
idea of just being with that guy and knowing that there was there was no problem. It was simply we hadn't got to the information that he needed to make this work. Um, that's magic, but it's also quite pragmatic.
Well, but it comes from a space beyond this reality of knowing
Mm,
that there is no problem. I really
yeah,
love that. That's
yeah,
amazing because that creates a space where anything can happen or get created.
that's right. Yeah. And I think too is if we're willing to be that, and that is really this interesting point of view tool, isn't
Yes.
it? That,
Yes, it
that you
is.
have no
An
point of view about
allowance.
an
Yes.
allowance because a problem is simply an interesting point of view or is a
Yes.
point of view. Then you be the energy or the space for something else for them.
Yes.
I don't know what the solution is. I
It
don't know how.
isn't a solution.
No, I don't know which button we have to
Yeah.
press, but I do
Right.
know there's no problem. And I do
Yes.
know that this particular person is way capable of handling this and getting it done.
Yeah.
He's just got stuck in the problem.
Yes.
And so
Absolutely.
it's being that energy and just being with it and allowing him to kind of resonate with it
Hmm.
so that he can get out of the funk of I'm stuck, I don't know what to do. And
Yes.
suddenly in that conversation I had with the engineer, he started suggesting things and talking about things, and it's like, great, cool, let's look at that. And it was just so interesting, you know. um, I think in life many times we do get stuck,
Yes.
and either you get yourself to question so that you
Yes.
can explore different possibilities and different energies and different ways, or you require somebody who can be questioned with you
Yes.
and be interesting point of view with you. So rather than saying, oh my God, we've got this problem, what are you doing? When are you going to get this fixed? You know, we have to get this handled, and putting all of this pressure on him so that he contracts even more into the problem and his
Mhm.
responsibility to fix it. And like, where's he going to go from there to, hey, you know, the energy of there is no problem. Which button
Right.
do we need to press?
That is just amazing. Thank you so much, Stephen. That was such an expansive space,
Cool.
a really expansive, happy space. I appreciate you coming on today and
Ah, thank you.
appreciate you being in the world.
And you too.
Thank you so much for joining this episode of Left Turn. I wonder what embracing left turns could create in your life. What magical possibilities might show up. Remember, when you choose left turns, you are joining a group of the most creative and brilliant people the world has ever known.